And you are watching The Big Issue. Well, of course, economic downturn and political uncertainty in Nigeria, together with multiple localized violent conflicts and the rise of divisive rhetoric, have reignited debate in the country on how power and resources are shared and managed across the federation of 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja. Now, regardless of ethnicity, religion, or socio-economic status, some citizens are calling for a comprehensive rethink of Nigeria's governance, architecture, and are demanding that a process of restructuring takes place. Others argue that improving the current model is crucial before pursuing anything new. Now, no matter the side of the divide you find yourself, it is overly clear that the state of national dissatisfaction for a variety of reasons and motives has led to stringent calls for virtually all segments of Nigerian society for political, constitutional, and fiscal reform using various words and phrases: restructuring, true federalism, devolution of power, resource control, regionalism, self-determination, and so on. Now, top on the argument for the best system of government for Nigeria is the call for regionalism or strict practice of federalism. Now, to debate the topic, regionalism versus federalism, which way Nigeria, is Dr. Abdul Hakeem Abdul Lateef, a senior legal practitioner, political analyst, and management consultant, and he's also the immediate past Commissioner for Home Affairs for Lagos State. He holds firmly to his conviction that regionalism is the way forward for Nigeria. Come on, put your hands together for him. Doctor. Good to have you. Fantastic. Now, on the other hand, is also a constitutional lawyer and rights activist. He is none other but Barrister Evans Ufeli, saying federalism in its truest state is the best form of government for Nigeria. Come on, put your hands together for him. All right, the die is cast, and this is exactly how we begin. So wherever you are, you want to sit down with your popcorn and enjoy this beautiful show, but trust me, we are going to go all the way and, of course, dissect everything that needs to be dissected on the show today. But very quickly, Dr. Abdul Lateef, it's good to have you. Thank you for coming. And quickly, I understand perfectly that you are for regionalism. Yeah. Now, how do you begin? How do you start?
Well, I'm going to start by appreciating you for giving me the opportunity to bear my minds on a very crucial topic.
Thank you very much.
And to say that for the first time, Nigerians need to wear our thinking cap. Several things have been foisted down on us right from the beginning of our existence as a Nigerian community, a name that was foisted upon us. We were never part of the various legal systems that brought in this country. We were not part of the 1922 Clifford Constitution. We had no input in the 1946 Richardson Constitution. Nobody was consulted before we had the McPherson Constitution of 1951. And the 1954 Constitution was also our fathers and mothers, they fought, you know. Yeah. But then there was no input. We had our independence, but really not an independence, because up till now, Nigerians are yet to enjoy the freedom of really determining how they are governed. Now you have a constitution that tells lies against itself. The preamble to the Constitution tells you that we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, have solemnly resolved to live in unity and harmony under one indivisible and sovereign, indivisible sovereign nation under God. But you and I know that we never met, we never sat down, we never discussed. So there is an opportunity for us now as Nigerians. All the myriads of problems that Nigeria is facing is on account of the fact that we are yet to sit down and look for a system that works for Nigeria. All the same, what you have currently is not even a federal system of government. It's a unitary system of government fostered on us by the military. So now, you need to, all the various countries in the world called the advanced nation, nobody copy and paste any type of system of government. You need a Nigerian solution to solve the problems Nigeria has. So we need to define what system suits Nigeria, what system will take account of our multi-ethnic diversities, what system will carry along every ethnic groups, and what system will actually bring development to Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Now, you heard everything he said.
Yes.
I know the preambles, I guess you already, pumped up to give me your introduction. How did you start quickly?
Well, I think that This episode is better graphically illustrated with the story of the Jews, which opened in the Twin Light Zone where legend and fact met. Now, the legend later acquired its own reality, having entered deeply into human existence. It is very clear that from the inception of the nation or the country called Nigeria, we were not in the position to understand the kind of system that should be adopted because it was a country that was named by the colonial master. It was a country that started off from the ideology of the non-natives who have come to colonize us, as it were. But what I refer to the legend is, having entered deeply into human existence, now we have realized that there is a need to look into the kind of system that suits our existence. Right all over the world, from unitary system to federalism, to capitalism, to socialism, to communism, is an attempt to try and get a particular system, a particular model that can define the purpose of governance. And that is a system that will define the security and welfare of the people, promote the economic conditions of the people, and then bring a better solution to the problems that will create prosperity and economic fortune and advantage. But where you have a system that have not been able to deliver that, and that system is still retained, then you have to review the concept. That is why I think that if we can put up a proper federal structure that will define our uniqueness, that will carry along our idiosyncrasies, that will carry along our lifestyle, that will give us the platform upon which we can define the concepts that really fits our origin,
right,
then we'll create a better platform for which we can strive from there.
Thank you very much. All right, quickly. Now, Dr. Abdul Lateef, I will take you up quickly with on the area of unity. Back in the day when the regional system of government was established, we understand that there were factions. Factions in the sense that all the regions handle their affairs. We have concentrated resources being attributed, almost 90%. They owned it and they implemented those resources themselves. But at a point in time, the issue of segregation started to set in. Like, it started to threaten the oneness of Nigeria. You know, the Igbos would say, this is our region. Yoruba said, this is our region. Hausa, this is our region. I mean, that system of government, how well will it foster unity? Because without unity, a nation cannot stand. So on what premise do you think the regional system of government should stand and continue?
Anyway, federalism has not granted us that unity. And I tell you that people agitate when there's no fairness. People agitate when there's injustice. The first form of injustice is when you take over the resources of people. All over the world, people who own resources are in charge of their resources. The first form of agitation of injustice is when you take over people's resources without consulting them, without their consent, and you give them a paltry sum for what? So if you talk about, that's why even in talking about restructuring, the first thing we need to restructure is to restructure the minds of Nigerians. Nigerians, we need to restructure our minds. We have to move away from a fixed and toxic mindset, where we hate one another, where we allow tribalism, ethnicity, nepotism to take the place of meritocracy, where we put a lot of things, Now, we are talking about governance, Nigeria does not need a federal system of government where power will be concentrated at the center. Nigeria needs a regional system of government. Let me tell you, when we talk about region, we are talking about people of, relative commonalities coming together. Think of an Abia state collaborating and working effectively and integrating with Ebonyi, with Imo, with Enugu, with Anambra, with a southeastern government that understands, the challenges of that area. Governance will get faster to them than a government from Abuja that is biting more than it can chew. Or you talk of a northwestern challenge, where Jigawa, Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, Kebbi, and Sokoto under a northwestern regional system or the north central of Kwara, Kogi, Benue, Nasarawa, and and the federal and Niger State, it brings governance closer to them. One, they own their resources. They only give a percentage to the federal government. Now you have an anomaly. A federal government that brings in an exclusive legislative list of 68 items. And these items are items upon which the government does not have competence. There's no way the government can discharge on all this. Okay. For example, you imagine, you talk of security. You take over police and see how state governments struggle, how Lagos will struggle to rebrand police as a rapid response squad when they should have police even at the local government level, when they should be able to govern their own territory. And we speak a lot of the contradiction is this. Okay. The contradiction is this. Yeah. You call the governor the chief security officer of the state, but he's not in charge of the police. And you have a high court in Lagos that convicts people, but we are not in charge of our prison. There's a lot of aberration in the current system.
All right.
And we need to please that.
I think that. Okay. Well, I took him up on unity, and he was quick to say, even in the federal system of government, so the unitary system as it is, also do not even have that unity fostering as it is. Now, he has raised some very vital issues from the federal level. Now, he says, you take resources from a particular region and you give them a paltry sum, and you are talking about building a federal character. I mean, how do you harness this argument that he's dropped now?
Well, to start with, I think we must all get it right. We must first understand that Nigeria is not even practicing federalism. What we have is like taking a poisonous leaf to a purification feast. You say you want to have a country that works, okay? If you look at paragraph 14 of the second schedule of the Constitution, it talks about the exclusive legislative lists where you have 68 items. And all these items are items that are supposed to be decentralized, devolved along the states so that the state will be able to manage these resources. And then you pack everything up on the federal government. And the said federal government have not been able to manage even the federal capital territory. That is the one it owns, like he lays claim direct to. It has not been able to manage that. And then he has to oversee the issues of all the other states, 36 states put together. Okay. And at the end of the day, what you have is a convolution of, different kind of crises, because it is like a country that is about to collapse under its own contradictions.
So fine, fantastic. Okay, with what you have just revealed now, so are you tilting towards Doctor's angle that the regional system is preferable?
No, I'm not saying the regional system is what we should have, because the regional system have its own shortcoming. The regional system is where the various regions are severed. You understand? Yeah, and they're on their own. There is no proper center. Okay, so it is easy for secession. That is the disadvantage. You can look at the call for the Midwest region. We had regionalism in Nigeria before, for 63 down. Yeah, because you have the secession clause then in the 1963 Constitution that made it possible for that to happen. Okay, so if we're practicing regionalism, for example, and then the current agitation in the Southeast, it will be easy to just leave. Do you understand? Because then you already have your own. The different regions had their own constitutions.
So you're countering. You're countering him now that to threaten our unity.
Yes, I'm countering him on the ground that we are not practicing proper federal system. Perhaps if he looks at the variables of a proper federal system, perhaps he will come to my side, because a proper federal system is one that guarantees everything he has talked about. It's one that guarantees for decentralization of power. It's one that allows for the different states to manage their resources. It's one that allows for the different states to have their own security apparatus, the police and all that. So that at the end of the day, all these states put together are able to manage their resources and contribute a quota in terms of tax to the center. So we can maintain one constitution okay, one proper constitution, and then still have all these regions, all these states, rather than operating a regional system where if we have 6 regions, we have to operate 6 different constitutions, we have to operate 6 different legal systems, we have to operate 6 different economic plans, we have to operate 6 different budgetary system and allocation. But where you have a proper federal structure, you have one constitution, but each state is able to revamp their own economic advantage and then contribute to the center. You have a viable center. Then the argument that one senator per state will even make sense, because at the center there will be no need to have a National Assembly where you begin to spend too much. You understand? Because the bogus of the National Assembly as it stands today, there will be no need for having 3 senators per state and then House of Representative members. What you will now have is perhaps just one person, okay, from each state there to, you know, to represent the interests of the states at that level.
Thank you.
So that will give us a better.
Thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Barrister. Yeah, Dr. Abdul Lateef, he actually outlined some situations with the regional system of government, having to have separations, you have different legal systems, guiding, of course. From what he has explained so far, it's obvious that at the end of the day, there might be a conflict of interest on the long run. How do you, counter this?
Anyway, I see him talking more of regionalism, not federalism. Because, you see, the current federal system that you have is, because it is called a federal system, whether you agree or not. And the fact that when we talk about regionalism, because if you talk about one senator per state, you are talking of regionalism. It's only regionalism that such exists. Currently, you have the most expensive system of government in the world operating in Nigeria.
Well, he's saying that a true federalism is what will reflect that.
Yes, that's what you have been practicing federalism so far. So long as you continue to call it federalism, what you have is what you'll be, having. You need to think out with it. You need to take a new venture into something that has worked before. The challenge is the other time when I mentioned that Nigerians need to address themselves, restructure their thinking and then come to terms with it. There's no structure of government that can work where people have that type of fixed mindset. If you agitate, you will continue to agitate. Look at the last confab. It ended up people asking for more states. The agitation by minorities' interests, they asked for 18 additional states. People will continue to ask for more states under a federal system until every family has a state. But when you come under the regional system, it does not matter whether you have 6 different legal systems. It has to be competitive. There must be viable communal competitiveness so that where a particular region, for example, if anybody comes here to kidnap anybody in Lagos, you are going to pass through Southwest. You can't pass through Northwest immediately. We need a regional integration where there is a common agreement, common understanding in respect of our immediate challenges. For example, what does it take for us to have uninterrupted power supply? You understand? Until a region begins to have uninterrupted power supply, because before other regions can be challenged. Right. So the issue of the multiplicities of legal system does not matter. The issue of secession too will not surface anywhere you have justice, anywhere you have fairness, development of the people, and carrying along people. For example, it does not matter. I say we should not adopt any system from anywhere in the world. We need to sit down and look for a Nigerian solution. For example,
Thank you very much. I got you clearly. It doesn't matter how many legal systems we have, so long they are all competitive. Ladies and gentlemen, the show is on. The debaters are ready to go all the way. This is still the big issue. We'll go for a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Yes, of course. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Regionalism or federalism, which way Nigeria? So far, our guests have been doing justice to the topic, and we're not even done yet. This is just halfway. And if you're just joining us, too bad you have missed out on the first part of it. But it tells you that you still have that luxury of, getting to go all the way from this moment. Now, Dr. Abdul Lateef, you were trying to, hold down the point before we went on that break quickly. How about you going all the way now?
And that is the fact that we have practiced regionalism before. When the Western region was Western region, the legal systems were not the same because not all matters were handled by the federal government. The Western region handled our own educational system and introduced for the first time free education, which worked effectively. So it becomes something that others can emulate, because there are things that you'll be shocked that you are in a nation where people cannot go to school, but they have all the resources that it takes for you to go to school. If Awolowo did it and brought the first TV station, so it becomes challenging. Unlike a system where you appropriate everything to the center and you have to wait for the federal government before you can construct Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for instance. You have governance now lopsided. Everybody is rushing to Lagos and you are challenging Lagos state government. You are slow. The Lagos state government is not slow at all. It is the fact that the federal government fails to realize that Lagos needs to be accorded a special status, because a former any city that was once a former capital territory is naturally granted a special status. Everybody has abandoned their states and come to Lagos and make nonsense of the infrastructure in Lagos. Everybody wants to ride the car and see the question where there's traffic. Everybody, a lot of abnormalities are taking place currently. Now, if you look at the expensive nature of the federal government that I'm talking about, recently, Buhari presented a very good budget. He reduced the budget of the National Assembly, which was 139 billion to 125 billion, naira this year. That's the latest one. Now, if I look at 125 billion and I, thought about it, the Dubai airport, which is one of the biggest in the world today, that has attracted a lot of tourism and investment into Dubai, was built with $81 million. $81 million translates to 29 billion naira. 29 billion, it means you will build 4 types of Dubai airports in Nigeria if we can do away with the current National Assembly. If you can do away with the current National Assembly, and look, we have so many state houses of assembly. You have the Federal Executive Council. What are you doing with 40 ministers? America, Donald Trump has only 15 cabinet members. And in UK, United Kingdom, advanced country, only 22. But if America were to do one minister per state, that means they will have 50 ministers. A lot of things that we need to do. We do not need more than having a representative of each region. We can have our own, where we have a president, we have a deputy president, and we have a vice president representing each of the regions. And this vice president takes charge of executive responsibility at the federal level. And whereas instead of having Lagos State House of Assembly or your State House of Assembly, because it's another, avenue, to spend a lot of money, you just have a regional House of Assembly. And a lot, once we reduce the amount of money we spend on governance, because that's one of the major advantages of regionalism, collapsing the government structure and then coming to think about it, it becomes very easy to govern. And then you localize, you bring governance closer to the people. Today, the government is far away from the people. Buhari is trying a lot, but it's not really translating immediately into dividends because of the.
Thank you very much. Now, Barrister, he has cited quite a number of points. I'll give them to you. Competition. He says, look, when development comes to regions, other regions will be pumped to do the same. Education back in the day was king, but right now, it is on the ruin. You have more private universities now. The federal system has collapsed, almost collapsing. You have the ASU strike every now and then. Students going to school and not having that, So we're asking you right now. He says something now. Look, it is no big deal if we can collapse all of these structures and have something reasonable. You are championing for true federalism. Now, how do you think your system of government can actually do wonders with what he has cited so far?
Yeah, if we develop the proper federal structure, like I said before, because if you look at federalism deeply, it overlaps with regionalism at some point. Because as a matter of fact and jurisprudentially speaking, if you look deeply into it, by reasons of clarity and elucidation, you will find out that both of them, both regional structure and federal structure, yearns for the devolution of powers at the component units, either you call it region or states, Both yearns for that, But what we need to understand is that given our peculiarity, given our status, given the Nigerian state, what we need is to maintain that proper federal structure.
Okay.
And then make sure that power is absolutely dissolved to the various regions. Okay, look at power, for example. If you look at the second schedule of the Constitution, do you know that the 1999 Constitution has already even given states the power to generate power, distribution, and then throughout the various states and areas that are not connected to the national grid. But here we are talking about restructuring, restructure. But if you look at even the Constitution we have, had made several provisions that have not been utilized. Okay? How many states, for example, apart from Lagos states, have been able to harness generation of power?
You said the Constitution has made several provisions that has not been utilized.
Yes.
Now, whose job is it to actually harness this provision for it to be utilized?
The Constitution said in that second schedule that the House of Assembly of each state, okay, can make laws to have those issues resolved across. Issue of power, for example, that's the example I'm giving. There are other areas where the states have not been able to do the needful in terms of managing their own. Look at the tax system, for example. The payee and all that the states are supposed to collect to develop their region before that of the federal government arrives. Okay, look at the monumental level of corruption at the different level of governance, at the state level, even at the local government level. Look at how governors take local government allocation and put it in their pockets.
Okay, now
and then you see when we address issues like this, talk about regionalism, talk about federalism, we must look at it vis-a-vis the monumental corruption, because you can have regionalism, you can have every kind of ism, but when you still have deep corruption in the system, you are still not going to have a headway. Because the term regionalism or the term federalism is a political ideology. It's a concept. And now that concept cannot enforce itself.
Right, before I go to the doctor, now everything you have harnessed so far, you are a barrister. Is it okay to say that the judicial system has failed? Because obviously if we have a stable judicial system that can actually pass the appropriate laws to the appropriate quarters to actually have something formidable, maybe we will not be here. What do you make of it?
But the judiciary don't pass laws. The judiciary interprets the laws. So I do not think the judiciary have not succeeded as it should have succeeded.
So is the corruption you're talking about has also eaten into the judicial system as well?
Of course, there is monumentally. I mean, in the judiciary, there's corruption everywhere. But what I'm saying is that as we agitate for a proper system, because while he agitates for federalism, he also
for
regionalism, he also stressed that there should also be a system that is localized, that will become ours, other than even regionalism.
Doctor,
you understand? I'm saying that in as much as we talk about the regionalism or the system that we have to localize, we must look at it vis-a-vis how can we create a system that will deal with our most devious enemy, which is corruption in Nigeria. So that is the crux of the matter, not just the political ideology that we talked about.
Now, Dr. Abdul Lateef, he has cited a very fantastic point. He said, even as you are agitating for this, with the monumental corruption that has eaten deep into the system, how can it be successful?
I started that way. When I talk about restructuring our minds, it's about doing away with matters like corruption, man, inhumanity to man, our own mischief, violent crimes, intercommunal clashes, and all those primordial sentiments. Those are the things bringing us back. But I said, if you want corruption, if you want to do away with corruption, then it has to do a lot with development at the same time. Because we have corruption in the public sector, you have corruption in the private sector.
Right.
The corruption of those in government is the corruption of those who are being ruled, who are being governed. Who are the people receiving the corruption? Who are the people who are, the people are the beneficiaries. We have a transition that we have to go through. And that transition is to get to a level where Nigerians can benefit from education, where Nigerians can benefit from health, but you have a government that is passionate about achieving that. And the government has to move from point A to point B. So during the time this government is trying to build such an infrastructure, Nigerians need to sacrifice. But you have a set of Nigerians who are not ready for that. So they are the real fathers of corruption, the real mothers of corruption.
Right.
So corruption, that's why I started that there is no system of government that can run itself. So if we are talking about regionalism, what I want us to get clearly is this. This idea of proper federalism is fraudulent. You understand? Federalism has failed. You must give federalism its report sheet that you have failed in Nigeria. What operates, you know? So what operates in most of these countries, they are confederation. What you have, even in the US, where every state, because, for example, let me give you some matters. How can we have a federal system where aviation is on the exclusive list? Where airports.
It's not a federal system. It's a unitary system.
You understand? No, it's a federal system.
No,
you see, technically, as a lawyer, you know, de facto, you know that this is what operates. You are talking about, ask a secondary school student, what system operates in Nigeria? What will be the correct answer in JAMB? It will be federalism. You understand? So you and I, we are seeing the unitary nature. Yes. You understand? So me, I don't want to buy into this issue of a proper federalism. We've been singing this song for long. Fiscal federalism. Now you mentioned the fact that there are issues that the House of Assembly ought to have legislated upon. Do you legislate when you don't have the revenue? Somebody takes over all your revenue, and there is no money for you to implement, even if you pass the law. You know, so you can imagine if 100% of the revenue belongs to the state and the state now shares 25%, it will be commensurate to what you have distributed in the legislative list. Give aviation to the state, give education to the state. Construction, imagine, they say construction of some roads which have been prescribed by the National Assembly as federal. What do you mean by federal road? Look at the road constructed by the Lagos State government from the airport to Oshodi. Why should you leave federal roads? These roads are ours. You understand? And if these roads are ours, we need resources to repair our road. Not that we're expecting somebody from Abuja to come and repair it. You know, imagine matters like fishing and fisheries is put under federal government. Fishing and fisheries. And you can imagine matters like labor. Now it has failed. Why is the new minimum wage? Why has it failed? Because you cannot prescribe what you don't govern. People should be free to determine the wages they pay their workers per state. You know, it is not an affair for the federal government. Federal government pays its own staff. Every state comes into reality. Every company, organization comes into terms. Such matters are concurrent. Right. You know, there are too many issues. I've listed so many issues that shouldn't be with the federal government. So let us stop talking about proper federalism. Right. We won't get there. Now, do you know the basic problem is that the current National Assembly will never give you a proper federal system of government. When Nigerians have power, you cannot take that power away from them. Right. You know, so, and you say we have a system of amending the constitution. Who among Nigerians who has been empowered will voluntarily leave that power and say we want to now have when Okorocha said it's good we have one senator. If you know the bashing that he has received, you know, for even suggesting that one at all. So you need to completely rethink the Nigerian project and come to terms with something that has worked before. It is still the same Nigeria, but now Nigerians will be able to now localize their challenges, come together. Why are states collaborating? Lagos State and Osun and all of them, they meet regularly because baby, we need a legislation. We can have one constitution that empowers all these states to come together, you know, and work together for development.
That's federalism.
No!
Now he just because no, that is absolute federalism. Okay. Concurring to what I have laid down, that we can have one constitution that will regulate all the states, but devolve powers to them absolutely to, you know, manage our resources, generate income, and spread across prosperity along the states.
The word regionalism, can the word regionalism be mentioned in a federal constitution?
It overlaps at times.
No, it's not about overlapping.
It overlaps at times.
Regionalism is regionalism. When you devolve power, what is constitution? It's a document. It's an agreement of minds. You sit down to write whatever you want to write.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In our constitution,
your conclusion,
once it is written.
Your conclusion,
yes,
each time you talk deeply about regionalism,
Yes.
it ends you up in federalism.
No, it's because
federalism is the true structure upon which governance can strive. When you talk about these regions,
what you think?
You talk about how the regions, how they generate resources and they manage themselves. When you cap it up, you are capping it up with a concept or what they call a political ideology called federalism. And that is exactly what you have done. And that's what I'm saying.
Maybe you have not addressed your mind to the dividends of regionalism. That is why anytime I discuss regionalism and it comes out positive, you say it's federalism. So you have to because
I have argued federalism on the big issue before. I have argued regionalism rather on the big issue before. And I know the component of regionalism ends you up in federalism.
The concept of what?
Regionalism
ends you up
in federalism.
No, we are not ended the show already. Yeah. We are going on this break, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, the members of the audience reign. This is to the big. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Federalism or regionalism, which way Nigeria, Dr. Abdul Lateef, and of course, Barrister Evans have been doing justice to the topic from the very blast. But right now, very quickly, I'll be giving the microphone to the audience. But just before the audience will bear their minds on it, we have in the house, God bless Otubere. He is a Lagos State coordinator for Not Too Young to Run, founder of Ready to Lead Africa, and a Mandela Washington Fellow. So well, come on, put your hands together for him. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now, he is going to be making a strong case for federalism. Ladies and gentlemen, come on, put your hands together for him once again.
I think the most important thing we need to understand is to define what these concepts are. So one of the major things you find with regionalism is the fact that there is a consciousness and a loyalty to a sect, to a particular region. And then that is actually fueled by homogeneity. So the concept of regionalism was built around the fact that we believe that we are different from the other people. So we must now champion our own cause. That is not Nigeria. That is not even Lagos State. That is not even the Western region, right? Because the idea, therefore, is before we talk about the inefficiency of the system, let us look at the fact that the promise of regionalism is not true. In Lagos State alone, when you go to Makoko, they speak Egun, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
When you move a little bit further, they speak something different. So within Lagos, you have more than 5 or 10 ethnic groups who clearly don't agree on certain levels. So when you say that, we want to institute regionalism in this place, what you're simply saying is that the Egun should be on their own, the other guys should be on their own, and all of that. So when you said, we tried regionalism before, and it worked, and Awolowo did it, what did you achieve? Was that the best you could have achieved? For the Christians, I'll tell you how regionalism or federalism started. And at the 12 of Babel, what happened was everybody was speaking the same language. But this is what happens. When you are all together speaking the same language, your growth is not outward, it's inward. As a human being, when you grow inward, it's called stunted growth. That's what regionalism brings. God came back, gave them different language and say, I want you to move around the world. English came out, French came out, Chinese came out, everything. That is how the word grew. That is where federalism came. The ability to use talent, use capacity that are diverse for the progress of humanity. That is what federalism is about. So the idea, therefore, is that federalism looks at all of this capacity that the various units can attain, brings it together and say the guy from the north must make the guy from the south better. That is why we created the National Youth Service Corps. That is why we have the federal character. The inefficiency and deficiency in federalism is not the problem of federalism. It is the problem of people who are not educated.
Thank you very much.
Right?
Thank you very much.
So if Alexander Hamilton, the guys who wrote the Federalist paper, today the United States is the biggest economy in the world, operating true federalism, one that is dependent on the heart of human beings who know that the responsibility and the call for governance is sacred, that I must not be corrupt, because what I'm doing here, I understand my role. I like the former commissioner because he seemed to understand his role. But let me tell you, sir, a girl called me 2 days ago and she was crying. Born in Lagos, raised here, went to school in Benin, but she's from Delta. She wants to do her IT. And they told her from the Lagos State Medical Association, I don't know which of the parastatals, and said to her, go back to Delta State because you are not from Lagos. That is the sentiment that regionalism pushes. And we can no longer allow that. Not in this generation. Not in this generation. So I'm saying to Nigerians today, the way forward is federalism, where I can go to Kano and become a commissioner, where I can go to Boeing and become someone, where I can be anything I want to be, because I am in Lagos, a Delta, and I am the Lagos State coordinator of the Not Too Young to Run. If regionalism was in play, that cannot happen.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Dr. Abdul Lateef, so far you heard everything he's outlined.
Yeah.
He says, look, I cannot function in your kind of government because it will not give me that autonomy to move around.
Yeah.
How do you address every point he has?
Well, I sympathize with him because his submission is full of obvious contradictions. I say that when you say regionalism, what it preaches is passion for a region. Regionalism is an international terminology. Everything you see around the world is about a region. The OAU, Organization of African Unit, is about a region. The African Union is about a union. It's about a region. European Union is about a region. Everything you see around, without a passion for your region, you cannot bring development to your region. It is not regionalism. It's not the same thing as tribalism. Even in in the federal system, you suffer from tribalism currently, you suffer from ethnicity. You mentioned NYSC. What has NYSC done now? You mentioned federal character. Federal character is one of the reasons why Nigeria cannot win World Cup, for instance. Because when you have a bunch of people who are extremely... you have competent people from Enugu State, for instance, who can deliver the goods and win the jersey for Nigeria. Put on Nigerian jersey on these people from Enugu. They bear Nigeria when they get to FIFA. It is unfortunate for us that we are not realizing that even the example you have given in Lagos operates now all around the country. Go to Anambra and tell them you are a Yoruba man and you want to join their system. Or go to be an Igbo man, go to Kano now, currently even as we speak.
Right.
It is natural for people. Do not take regionalism. You say, what did we achieve? Read about Awolowo, you may not be alive then. Huge achievements. When we talk about achievement, free education. Do you have free education now? Even with the federal system of government. He was able to boldly come out. And that free education was not for Yoruba children. That free education was for Nigerians. Anyone who was at that region, you never hear of xenophobia at that time. Sorry. Nobody was sending anybody from Igbo, any Igbo away from the West at that time. Because even the NCNC that was formed by Azikiwe was also part of the government, even at that time, in the Western region. So you need to understand regionalism and take away this primordial sentiment of tribalism or whatever it promotes. Without love for your region, you cannot develop.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Barrister, you want to.
He raised a very fundamental issue here. I need to puncture. He said that during regionalism, we had a creation that Awolowo created free education, and then it became an issue and all that. But I want to say that it is not regionalism that brought about that; it's a policy. Every other leader at any point in time or at any region could have also done that. So it was not because of regionalism that you had free education then.
But do you now have it in the federal system?
No, it's because of a policy of a leader with a vision. It's not regionalism that instigated it. It was a leader with a vision. So we should talk about
the revenue to do it.
We should talk about leaders that we have vision for the country and those who are patriotic to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people.
Okay, you said something now. You said something now. You said it was a policy that brought about the free education.
Policy.
Are you saying that at that time, the regional government of the Western region, they didn't sit down to discuss that policy to be released?
That is what I'm talking about.
So
it was a policy that was suggested under that system of government. It is not the system of government that delivered the policy. It was just a policy. It could have been done even in under any kind of.
So can you do free education?
So it is not
where the federal government owns all the revenue?
You cannot say because you had regionalism, that is why you had free education. No. It's just a leadership concept.
No.
The vision of a leader that delivered that.
Now he made a point.
That is commendable.
Now he made a point now. At that time, resources were owned by the region.
Yes.
So it was easy for them to channel those resources to do what they want. Now, going for a free education policy, you know it's going to cost a lot.
Yes.
But they knew they had the money. Why? Because they had that embossment, they had the resources within them to achieve that. If the resources wasn't present, do you think that policy would have been a success?
The federal government now gives you what is not even sufficient for you to pay salaries.
Federalism calls for education. Federalism calls for social integration. It calls for oneness. Look at the shortfalls of regionalism. Look at how they were unable to even sustain it in 1963. They had to call for a Midwest region, which came out from that. And then you also had other agitations also before the military took over. You had other agitations. You understand, within the same concept. So it is better we agitate or we reverse our minds to federalism, because he has talked about the weakness of what we have, which is not federalism.
We'll come back to
We are saying federalism is the way to go because it is what guarantees modern democracy.
All right, put your hands together for him. Come on. All right, who has a question in the audience? But before that, we have the presence of Muritala Odusare, a social critic and a political analyst. Come, put your hands together for him. Do you want to say something about this? Quickly, before we pass the microphone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please, you were saying something the other time. I disagree with you. For me, charity begins at home. There's no way you want to develop the national level where you leave your backyard, in problem. Please, as far as I'm concerned, I want to change the narrative. Majority, of so-called political actors believe that the first Republican politicians were mainly nationalists. I disagree. They were partly nationalist and mostly regional. You were talking about what did the regionalism give us? The same road Chief Obafemi Awolowo constructed back in those days, you're supplying it. Back in those days, TV were on. Back in those days, the first said this, the first said that, and you're telling me regionalism it hasn't brought us goodies. What the so-called federalism brought it to us.
We don't have federalism.
Hello, sir. Till date, free education has never been done the way it was done then. You are calling this a free education? Where, you'll be asked to pay peanut? That time, it was purely free education. Okay? So for me, sir, I completely agree with you. I concur with you that regionalism is the best for us. And they said, we are playing an outrage. People are saying one Nigeria. There is nothing like one Nigeria. In reality.
All right, put your hands together. Thank you very much. All right, okay.
You said federalism has failed Nigeria. If you agree with me, it was as a result of corruption. How are you sure that regionalism will not fail Nigeria with the minds of the leaders we have today? You mentioned Awolowo. Is it not because of his mindset? So how are you sure that regionalism will not fail us also?
You and I must preach. We must advise Nigerians and all of us, because charity begins at home. You see, this issue of corruption, when the change management system was launched, change management requires that Nigerians, because Nigerians expect in change management, you have the big bang change, where everything will just change immediately. That's what Nigerians expect. But it is an incremental change that we can have in Nigeria. If you have a leader like Buhari is free from corruption. He has set a standard. And now you see among those who are working with Buhari, people who are also, are epitome of selflessness, people who truly want good for this country. I must let you know the majority of Nigerians are better than the few who are corrupt. In Nigeria, we have great minds, and we have people who want to do it. But the mistake we make is this. We think that there is someone somewhere who is going to change Nigeria. Nigerians must change by themselves. Now, in change management, you can have the change champions. If you have the change champions, you have cheerleaders truly, but the cheerleaders must become change agents. Because at the other side of the divide are change skeptics. I mentioned Buhari now, some people say, hey, because they themselves, they are the problems of this country. Let me tell you, I'll tell you why. Listen. I'll tell you why. You know, the other time, my brother, very good brother, said he has been here to discuss federalism. I am a practitioner. You understand? I'm a practitioner. I've been in the House of Assembly for years. I've been a special advisor to Fashola on political and legislative matters. I've been a committee. I've practiced federalism. So I can tell you how federalism is a complete failure. And when I tell you the corruption you are talking about, for example, corruption, when he said corruption, change begins with me, Nigerians were laughing. Unless change begins with you, unless the family institution trains our children about honesty and integrity, unless everybody who is a member of one party or the other is not there to ask for what the honorable member is going to give him. When I was the honorable member House of Assembly representing Oshodi Solo, when I went home to give information, to give briefing to my people about what we have done, the laws we have passed, the motions I had moved, I was hearing some of our people saying, is that what we have sent you there to go and do? You know, which means that they were expecting you to give money. All right. So long as that mindset continues, no system of government can work for Nigerians.
While I want to appreciate Mr. Aziz for his passion, I want to ask Barrister that if he's talking about federalism, how will the federalism he is talking about bring about unity of the citizens of Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Barrister, I want to respond to that quickly.
Yes.
How would the federalism bring about unity?
Federalism is the only political ideology that can deliver unity, the unity of this country.
Okay.
How? Thank you. Now, in a federal structure,
because of time.
In a federal structure, you have the center, you have the component states, the component regions that have the power to manage their resources, make their own laws, project their own aspirations, and then deliver on the promises of democracy. You have a center that regulates their affairs, a center that they contribute to, okay? But when you talk about regionalism, regionalism cuts off the different regions, give them absolute autonomy.
Thereby creating division?
Yes, widen the divide.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, of course, you have heard it. Federalism, regionalism, the debate is still very hot, but right about now, we need to take it home. If you're just joining us, too bad. But of course, this is still the big issue. This is still the big issue. Well, right now, quickly, I have to give opportunities to my guests to actually take it home. Finally, on their final thoughts, Dr. Abdul Lateef, you have expressly given us your verdict concerning regional government, and you said, look, this is the way forward. What is your final thought on this before we run from here?
Well, the challenge that we have is that federalism has has made several states in Nigeria to be very lazy. Right. We cannot think because we rely on whatever is coming from the federal government. The federal government must now ensure that we restructure and then return resources back to the states. Those states that do not have what you call natural resources, they take a cue from what's happening around the world. People don't rely on oil. Several nations in the world are controlling the world on account of, wearing their thinking cap, know. And look at, I give example again about Dubai. They are using dictatorial government, you know, monarchy. And the issue of tribalism or ethnicity doesn't come in. People rush to Lagos because of development. Right. If you develop your region, people will come. Investment will come. Everything will come around.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Barrister, quickly, we don't have time. Your final thoughts.
Yes, taking on what he has said, if you develop your region, people will come. And it's only federalism that can ensure that the regions are developed, that the country is developed. We must create that federal system that will deliver that. Disband corruption, build a federal system where we can promote democracy and promote the progress of Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, quickly, before I run, we can't actually deviate from the ritual. Guys, come on, you can shake hands now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go back to your seats. Thank you. And of course, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we have come to the end of this very debate. I know the feeling, all right? But follow the conversation on our social media handles at TVC Connect and at TVC News Nigeria. My personal handle is Mark Otabo, is one word, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Of course, until we come back again with another big issue, always remember that this is the show to stick on to all the time. And I want to thank you for the love wherever you are. This is always going to be the big issue. Thank you very much. Peace.